You cannot play away like this unless you've got a group of players who are engaged and also well drilled. They just weren't good enough, City, and Palace fully deserved it.
It has been glad all over here in South London since Crystal Palace lifted the FA Cup aloft at Wembley on Saturday. What a game, what an occasion for the club. I'm Will Pugh, we're back in the Tactics Exposed studio. Sun Sports tactical guru Dean Scoggins is with me. Dean, absolutely sensational stuff for Eagles fans.
Absolutely loved it. How good was that?
They'll be lapping this up. Give me your 5 points that we're going to look at.
Yeah, and look, Mateta with the selfie stick straight away is my favourite part of the celebrations, which is amazing. Yeah, and then after that, it's glass of champagne. Glasner and his setup and how he beat Manchester City is number one. Number two is the Hokey Cokey. You love this sort of stuff, and I'll show you what the midfielders did to stop City. Number three, Dan the Man, Munoz, Colombia's finest wing-back. Absolutely sensational performance, brilliant player. Number four, Hakuna Mateta. not sure that really means anything. It's a wonderful phrase, but what Mateta did, which was so important for Sarr and Eze as well. And then number five, a little bit on Manchester City. No six in the city. There was a big problem in Manchester City's midfield again.
Absolutely not. No Dean Henderson being covered though.
Well, you know, goalies are there to make saves, aren't they?
And he should have been sent off. Right, glass of champagne. Oliver Glasner, some of the words he was saying in his press conference after the match, he just gets it, doesn't he? Saying that this is what we do it for those hours, those days of glory that people, the fans, the normal hard-working people that come and support this club will remember. He's got a bit of a good track record in the Cups, won the Europa League at Frankfurt, of course, before he came here. Talk to me about the German.
It's a brilliant plan he had, an absolutely brilliant plan. I mean, I just love the whole thing. It's great for a club like Palace to win their first trophy in Europe next year as well. But Glasner said in the pre-match press conference that if Pep plays the same way again as he did when they beat them 5-2 at the Etihad, he'll have a plan for it.
Got his number.
And he did. He had his number. Look, you mentioned Henderson, he had to make some saves. Defenders had to be brilliant. Everyone had to be well drilled, but they were. And so it's a setup which we know they play 3-4-3, but more likely it was kind of 5-2-3.
Yeah.
So the way they set up with the wing-backs very deep, Tyreek Mitchell one side and Munoz the other side. Munoz got forward a lot more than Mitchell did, but essentially they were a back five. And then most importantly, as well as the midfield two in front of it, it was where Eze and Sarr got in the positions to stop Manchester City. So Man City set up and we'll show this as well, Manchester City set up in a fairly predictable shape, but it was Nico O'Reilly who went into the inside left position. So it was almost City went 3-5-2, if you like, as well. But it was almost like more like 3-3-4 that City played with Marmoush and Haaland up front. But what then Palace did is that Eze and Sarr drop in alongside the midfield two, and then Mateta in front creates this sort of semicircle around in front of the midfield. And everywhere you looked, it looked like Palace had more players. And, you know, and City were reluctant to push right up the field with their centre-backs because, obviously, as we saw, the danger going the other way is very real of Eze and Sarr, and obviously Munoz on the overlap. But it was just that the setup was so compact and so good. I think there were only 3 occasions in the first half where Man City got into areas that Palace didn't know they'd want them to be or didn't stop them being. There was the penalty incident, there was the handball incident from a long ball actually, and then there was the save from Doku when he cuts in off the right-hand side. But they're all moments against a side like Manchester City that you have to deal with. But it was that work rate of Eze and Sarr and how much Glasner trusted his forward players to do a defensive job and then be so compact between the lines. And I tell you what, I want to give a hat tip as well to Adam Wharton, who as a young English midfield player was like the marshal in there. And you could see the pointing, you could see the conversations he was having. And look, hopefully he's all right after a bit of concussion afterwards as well, which halted his celebrations. But God, was his mind on it when he was in the game. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, well, Steve Parish afterwards confirming that Glasner will definitely be Crystal Palace.
He reckons seconds. Fingers crossed for Palace fans. I think there's a few other sets of fans who might be looking across and thinking that Glasner's the one for them as well.
Yeah, totally. Well, we'd certainly have him at West Ham, that's for sure. Right, Dino, the Hokey Cokey. I'm not dancing, I'm not singing. Talk to me.
You nearly did. I nearly got you going. Yeah, and so this follows on from what I've just said about that setup, okay? So we'll show again on the graphic, we'll show how they were set up in that 5-2-3. But what happens then naturally against a team like Manchester City is Manchester City will move the ball from left to right, right to left, along the lines, in and out, trying to make you come out of position so that then they can go in behind you. Wait for you to make that mistake. And I sat there and I actually rewound it and watched it again, as sad as I am, and went through it all. And it's this move from Kamada and Wharton, which is the most impressive. So if you imagine that you've got Eze on one side and then you've got Mateta sort of picking up the other defenders in that position, there's the gap in between. And so what City were trying to do was feed it into someone so they could carry the ball into that gap.
Yep.
But what the two midfield players do is as soon as the ball goes in between the two attackers, they go in.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't come to, they've blocked off that line of defence, so then they go back out again.
Yeah.
And then it was in, it was out, it was in, it was out. And then it goes over to the left, and the other person does it in that position, out of that position. And Man City were just sort of looking up, oh, there's three players in front of me, pass it along the line. Next man looks up to run through the gap. Oh no, there's three players in front of me again.
Yeah.
And it was just absolutely brilliant how the two midfield players who were able to split wide were then going in and out of those gaps. And just so disciplined. And also the other thing you've got to do is not go the whole way.
Yeah.
You're not going to close the ball down. You're just going far enough, maybe as far away as you and I are now, just to go to the point where you say, well, you can't go through me. And then that's it. And it really was. And if you'd have put a graphic on the two players for 20 minutes in the middle of the first half, they would have just been doing little runs like that. In and out, making that semicircle shape around the defence. And hats off, discipline.
I know they're trained for this sort of stuff, Dean, but I think, especially doing the show with you for as long as we have now, it's impossible not to appreciate how much work goes in, or how much work Premier League footballers are required to do off the ball, like unglamorous, just pretty laborious, tedious work a lot of the time. But if you are disciplined and if you execute these plans to the letter for the entire 90 minutes, they will pay off.
Yeah, absolutely. And also that way of working, as a manager, you've got to be able to convince a group of players and they've got to trust you and go with you. And that way that he had them set up also gives them the release going the other way.
Yeah.
And we saw that moment in the first half where I think it was Palace's first attack where Eze was fouled because City play that ball round the side, and then it was actually a loose pass and Eze intercepts it. And what Glasner will be telling them is, if we're in this shape and we nick it, then we're 3-on-3. And then I trust you to go and be those heroes that you are and attack it. And Sarr, Eze, Mateta and whoever else is joining in. And so as players, you think, yeah, I like that. And as you say, you cannot play a way like this unless you've got a group of players who are engaged and also well drilled. So, full credit. The difference between winning a trophy and not is those players being ready to go.
Right, Dan the man, Dino, Colombia's finest. What a performance.
Brilliant.
A great assist, of course, for the goal, but it was much, much more than that.
It really was. And it's his reading of the game which I find so impressive. As I said before the final, I went to watch Tottenham Palace on that as a bit of research, and obviously it was a very poor Tottenham team. So as somebody pointed out in the comments, thank you very much. But yeah, it was the way that he doesn't just go.
Yeah.
You get gung-ho wing backs and you get wingers who, you almost as a defender, it's predictable because he's going to run.
Yeah.
So therefore you drift over into that left half space and block off that run. But he doesn't go every time. He chooses his moments, and we'll show his touch map, and half of his touch map is fairly predictable, sort of in the right back position, and up towards the halfway line. And then the other bit, there's this big gap. And then the rest of his touches are right in the attacking third. Yeah. So when he goes, he goes.
Yeah.
And it's so good to watch because it's almost like everybody else is stationary. And it was actually one of the ones they didn't score from, where they had another chance, where he is stationed. Everybody else is stationary. And then he looks and he sees the ball going towards Mateta and he thinks, this is me. And off he goes. And he goes past 4 Manchester City players who were all standing still. And then with the goal, it's a plan off Nico O'Reilly. I think they know. Whoever was going to play there, whether it was going to be Guardiola on the left of the Man City defence who goes into that midfield position, as it was Nico O'Reilly. I think Glasner has had a plan with Munoz where he says, you're off the back of him. And so you can see it. The ball goes into Mateta, it goes back to Kamada, and Munoz is thinking only one thing, I'm going to get there. And then the other thing is, of course, Eze's going as well, and he knows Munoz is going to get there. So it's not just run up and down, okay? Let's give him miles more credit than that. It is an understanding of a tactic and when to go. Because obviously, if you're playing against Man City and you choose the wrong time to go, you've got Jeremy Doku to chase, going back the other way. And also, let's a massive amount of credit to Palace's back four when he leaves it. So the back five becomes a back four. They all shuffle across to allow him to go. And as I said, that's why he gets forward more than Mitchell does. When Mitchell goes forward, Munoz does the same thing. And so they've always got four at the back. But yeah, I love watching him. I mean, I know they're in Europe, and I know it's. I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but there's going to be some big clubs looking at him next year.
Right, you've already got rid of their manager. Now you get rid of their star fullback as well.
I'll tell you what, they need to turn off the phones, fax machine, lock the doors, and everything, because there's about four of them who should be looking elsewhere.
Yeah, sorry lads, we're shut this summer. Don't worry about it. I
absolutely.
reckon just thinking about it, the old eyebrow into the hair train track. I think that might suit you, that one. Hakuna Mateta, Dino.
What a wonderful phrase.
What a wonderful phrase. What a wonderful striker. What a wonderful bit of hold-up play for the opening goal. What a wonderful bloke he is in Palace fans'
amazing.
eyes.
I mean, it's so good that he's almost starting to suit the thing he's had for the mask for his injury from previously, and it almost adds to the sort of cult hero-ness of it. And as I said, the selfie stick there. What a guy! What a guy! And he'd be the one you want. And Alan Shearer made a really good point after the game where he said that if you were a centre back, he's the one you don't want to play against.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the one. He does not give you a second. But the bit that, look, we know he puts everyone under pressure. We know he holds the ball up well. We know he makes good runs in behind, okay? I'll say that's a given. But the bit I noticed, which was really, really impressive, is that they've identified, again, we didn't know whether it would be Nico Gonzalez, Bernardo Silva, Kovacic or Gundogan, whoever it was. Palace have said before the game, we know that City will have a deep-lying midfield player who will sit in front of, who'll drop off and recycle possession and go side to side. So Mateta, you've got a massive job to do. And that is basically to go and mark that player out of possession. As a striker, he was man-marking Bernardo Silva for the majority of it. And then they swapped it and it was De Bruyne. He did the same thing. Second half, it went back to Silva again. He did the same thing. And there's a great moment of how to man mark where he's standing there with his arm around Bernardo Silva in midfield. And it was like, I've got so much confidence in what I'm doing. I've got this guy in my pocket. I'm stopping Man City playing. I'll just put my arm around him just because it was so good. And when you can defend like that as a striker, what happens is you leave defenders and midfielders in this difficult decision. Does Bernardo Silva
the opposition,
Does Bernardo Silva then go, I'm going to drop deeper and have the ball deeper because the strikers come back to defend? Yeah. Winning. You're winning. You've pushed them back away from your goal. Or does he go in further forward in the space in between, where in this setup there's no space? Yeah. So then you're crowding out. And there were times where you could have thrown a towel over Man City's front five, and Marmoush and Haaland together up there. And what it creates is this sort of, as I said, the semicircle round the front of it, and it's led by the front man. And then, of course, the ball goes the other way, and then it's coming into him to attack. Yeah. And so he was the focal point for defence and attack. And they're so joined, Palace, in it. And it all comes from Mateta. And I got some pals who are Palace fans, and for all year they've been saying, Eze is their best player, but they're just not the same team without Mateta in it. And in that final, you could see why.
Are you going to get rid of him this summer as well? Because strikers are at a premium.
Well, I have no idea why Arsenal didn't sign him either at the start of the season or in January, when probably if they'd thrown money at it, they could. I mean, he's doubled his value now. So, and again, turn off your phone.
Sorry, Palace fans. This was supposed to be a bit of feel-good post-FA Cup final fun for you. Dino's getting rid of all your players. Forgive us.
Not them all.
Dino, 0.5, no 6 in the City. Pep's big errors this time around. Stubborn Pep Guardiola.
Yeah,
Some might say.
Lots of people are saying it, I think, and it's weird, isn't it, to criticise Pep? I mean, sorry, but we've got to be fair.
Less so this season. It's a bit more in vogue.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Most defeats they've had in a season since 2008 and no trophy. So, Pep will be the first person to be looking at himself. So there's no, I'm not digging out one of the greatest managers ever to live. But what I want to say is that I do think he's stuck with the formation he was in far too long. And he barely changed it throughout the game. Even when he made the 2 substitutions, including Foden late on, it was the same setup. It was 3 defenders, it was 3 sort of central-ish midfielders, wingers hugging the touchline, and then 2 forwards in there together. Marmoush aside from the penalty, Marmoush didn't get in the game at all. Haaland had one moment early in the first half where I thought City are going to break them down here. We'll show an overhead shot of it where De Bruyne goes back into the pocket and City have forced Palace back into their area onto about the penalty spot, and De Bruyne obviously hits a lovely cross which Henderson makes a great save from. But then, after that, City don't force Palace back at all. Palace were able to do those little shuttle runs where when the cross is going to come in, we drop towards the edge of the penalty spot. And then when the cross comes out again, we come out to the edge of the box again. And it's actually not that far to cover. It's not that difficult a job for a defence to do. And yes, you've got to deal with Haaland in the air, but basically Lacroix and Guehi did a fabulous job. And, and then when Guehi went off, they all clubbed together and did a brilliant job as well. But they didn't change it up. They didn't say, OK, right, this is not working with the wingers on the touchline. Let's put the fullbacks on the touchline and push the wingers inside. They didn't say, OK, let's put Haaland up the middle and play too close to him either side and push them right 3v3 at the back. It was the same setup all the way through. But the big thing for me, and the 6 in the City, that was the thing, it was defence and attack. They just didn't have that man in front of the back 3 or back 4 to sort of dictate play. As I said, Mateta gave them a problem with the way he was marking.
There's not many teams, though, where the centre-forward's marking one of your midfielders, is there? That would have been a surprise to him.
It would have been a surprise, but you've seen, after 25, 30 minutes, you've got to have seen it. I mean, and it got to the point where it was like, and then it became Palace almost couldn't believe their luck. Because then, I saw Glasner, when they got this goal kick, Palace, which they ended up scoring from, Glasner was actually pointing and telling everyone where to stand because he knew there'd be nobody in front of Mateta. And so that was where the number 6 for City would be, parked in front of him. The last thing you want as a centre-half is a 1v1 against Mateta. Yeah. So what you want, you'll have done it in the games. We'll have all done it in games playing in defence or midfield. Get your mate in front. On his toes, mate. Stand in front of him. Yeah. And nobody did it. And so all of a sudden, they were able to play the ball from defence into Mateta. Mateta holds off his man, and it's either a layback or a ball round the corner. And it was very, very odd that they didn't do that and then shut off that supply line. Because then I feel a little bit like what would have happened is Mateta would have then had to start running the channels. And if he's then running the channels and you lose possession, he's not in that position marking Bernardo Silva. So there's that sort of cat and mouse game between the two things as well. But yeah, nobody parked in front, nobody screening across in front. And it took De Bruyne until about the 70th minute to start running the game around that edge of the box and moving the ball quicker. And they just weren't good enough, City, and Palace fully deserved it.
Fancy a City revival next season, though, briefly?
Oh yeah, they're not going to hang about, are they? They're going to buy some big players and spend a lot of money, and not for a second should anybody rule them out for a title charge next year.